What's going on? Here at the Billy Holcomb chapter 1069. I love their things backwards. Society of Vituscan Missionaries annual high country event. Cerro Gordo. August 20th, 21st, 22nd. Yeah, here's the shirt. Mine and the Inyos. Alright, you guys. 4x trip. This is the group. It's looking pretty good. In the background. We're here at the, what's this golf course? Mount Whitney Golf Course. Yeah, that's what it is. Alright, again, back to you. It's time to start drinking. What's going on? A little hazy out. 2 fires going on, so it's really hazy. It's bad. It sucks. We're having a good time. A few drinks in. We're gonna go get something to eat. It's just a little after 6 o'clock. Friday. Alright, you guys. Should be around. Look at Harold. He's hanging out by the dumpster. I'm gonna sleep in the back of my truck. It's gonna be a good one. Later. How's the food? Good stuff? Alright. Have you ever seen a taco bigger than a burrito? Just saying. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? The sun just went over the mountain over here. It's a little hazy because of the fires, like I already said. This guy's being obnoxious, but got the flags up. Yeah. He's struggling. Don't put that Ozark Trail next to my Yeti. I'm just kidding.
Damn, Chad's here.
It's official. We have 3 or 4 different treks. Different groups going. We got the lineup going now.
Where's your rig at?
He's over there getting his stuff ready. Yeah. The haze is in full effect right now. You can smell the freaking fire. It sucks.
With coilovers and long arm.
Look at this. Coilover long arm 2014 Jeep Rubicon. Thing's nice. It's badass. Get out of there. Look at this. Yeah.
You're gonna be on TV, Brian. Yeah, you are.
There's group 1 rolling out. That tow hitch is gonna get caught on something. Yeah. Group 2's line up. I think there's 4, maybe even 5 groups. We'll see. Yeah, these rigs are nice. Yep, we're going to be leaving here in about half an hour on the trail. We're in the 3rd group. Sun in the back, haze all around, flags. You can look directly at the sun. It's not even blinding you. It's so hazy here. Yeah, we're up here in Inyos, Eastern Sierras on a 4x trip. Stay tuned and learn a little history. See some action on the vehicles on the rigs. Here's the next group heading out, 8:30. Our group's leaving at 9. Nice. Out here on the golf course. Just outside of it. Part of their property up here. They rented out to us. They are rolling. Yeah.
So the railroad was started way up in Mountain House, Nevada, near Virginia City, and the original idea was they were going to run it down south through what's now Hawthorne, which wasn't there yet when they started the railroad. The railroad's just the Hawthorne is just there because of the railroad, and then continue it on down and basically kind of parallel the western border of Nevada to take advantage of the mines that were going on down there. But what happened was they decided all of a sudden that, you know, Cerro Gordo is still going here. There's other mining activity in the Owens Valley. When they got down to about where Mina, Nevada is now, they decided instead of turning kind of bearing off to the left, they're going to come over to the right and go over Montgomery Pass into California and then down to the Owens Valley. The idea was that eventually they might hook it up with Mojave, you know, way down here where the main line was. So this is a narrow gauge railroad we're talking about here. So they started running the thing. It's kind of funny. They built south from Mount House, and they were doing fine. They were making pretty good progress. They were taking advantage of the mining at Candelaria. That was a big gold and silver mine there in Nevada, and they went off to the west over Montgomery Pass, just like they planned, and they head down. And they got here to Keeler. So when they got to Keeler, the guy in charge of the railroad, the guy who's putting all this shit together, he decides, well, I'm going to go take a tour of the line now. And he gets on the train up there in Nevada and rides it all the way down to here to Keeler. He gets off the train, and this is a story. I don't know if it's really true or not, but he gets out and he looks around, and there's nothing freaking here. He says, well, we either built this railroad 300 miles too long or 300 years too early. What's going on? He said, we're going to stop it here. We're not going to continue on to Mojave because there's no reason to. And so the railroad, here's the other thing too, is that you had the towns like Bishop was there, Independence, so on. But the line, if you look at like Google Earth or something like that, you can see the trace of the roadbed. It's all on this side of the valley, and all the towns are on this side of the valley. So if you lived in Lone Pine and you wanted to go to the railroad station, you had to get in a horse and carriage or ride a horse or whatever, a mule, or walk all the way over to the, you know, a couple miles, several miles over to the railroad station at Lone Pine Station. It's like, well, it really wasn't
defeat the purpose.
Yeah, it wasn't very practical for passenger travel. And what they were trying to do was get the farmers, because remember there was a lot of farming up here, the farmers and the miners, and that was going to be their bread and butter. They were going to take that originally south to Mojave, but since they didn't continue on, they would just take it north up to the main line up, you know, through Virginia, through the Virginia and Truckee Railroad down to the main line. I think it's the Western Pacific or the Central Pacific that was there on the Transcontinental. Well, anyway, this is Keeler Station, Keeler Railroad Station. And you can see this is like the style that the Southern Pacific used for the stations. The railroad was originally, it was built by a guy named Yarrington that they named Yarrington, Nevada after.
Really?
And it called the Carson in Colorado, and eventually was bought up, I want to say 1900, 1901 in there by the Southern Pacific. And then they ran it, and but the depot, from what I understand, is in their style. I don't know who owns it. I've never found out who owns this building. It's all, obviously it's locked up. I know Mark German took his camera phone and found a door where you could stick your arm in, and he just reached in with his camera and took a picture this way and took a picture that way. And when he looked at the picture, he could see a couple of bookshelves, and there were like Southern Pacific, some sort of books of some kind marked with Southern Pacific binders. So there's something's in there, but what it is, I don't know. So you had this station here, and then, like I mentioned before, you had the one there at Lone Pine Station that looks very similar to it, but somebody's got that as a private residence. What eventually ended up happening was they decided that they were going to make everything standard gauge on the Carson of Colorado. So around 1905, starting up at Mound House, they started working south and made the narrow gauge into standard gauge, but only as far south as, I'm pretty sure it was Mina. It might have been Luning, but I think it was Mina. And at that point, they stopped standard gauge and just kept it as narrow gauge. So you had this section from here to there. You had to interchange. Right. It was a pain in the ass because when Candelaria was really going in the later 1890s, early 1900s, they had to do all their interchange between narrow gauge and standard gauge up around the Virginia City area. Excuse me, Carson City area, the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. And it was backing up freight cars all the way along the main transcontinental, all the way to Truckee, as they're waiting to unload this stuff and put it from standard gauge to narrow gauge to standard gauge. That's when they decided to make everything standard gauge. And they just kept moving the interchange further and further south. Well, then when Candelaria kind of burned out, they decided, well, we'll stop it there and keep the narrow gauge. When it was time to start abandoning the railroad, they started abandoning it working from the north. So they pulled up the tracks, abandoned the tracks, first the standard gauge tracks. So you just had this island of railroad from here to up around Benton, and there's nothing attached to it. There's nothing joining it. The only way you got to the outside world was up at Inyos. There was a transfer. The railroad had been built by then, a standard gauge railroad from Inyos all the way down that side of the Owens Valley.
Yeah, there's a rail line that runs almost to Randsburg, right?
Yeah.
But it actually doesn't go to Randsburg. I guess it goes towards Mojave or something?
Yeah, so what it does is it comes down the west side of the valley here, and you can see the roadbed just outside as you go down 395. It parallels it. And then it crosses over, goes through Inyos. There was a station there, and then continues on down along 395, past Ridgecrest towards Cerro Station. And there you can see actual railroad again, because that's the Trona Railroad. So the Trona Railroad continued east to Trona, and then the Jawbone, what they call the Jawbone Cutoff, came up here. And then you could take that all the way to Mojave. It's all standard gauge. You ever see Bad Day at Black Rock?
No.
It's a 50s movie with Spencer Tracy. When you get home, look that up, because the first scenes, Spencer Tracy is coming up on a Southern Pacific passenger train, the old streamliners, and they had it runs right through here, not here, but through the Owens Valley, as he gets off at the station where he's going to solve the big crime. And you can see it's northbound. Well, the track just ends, and when you watch the movie the next day or 2 days later, he's catching the southbound train. And the train's going that way. Well, how do you turn around? You don't. So what they did was they just flipped the film so it looked like it's going that way. They built a fake town and all that. Hey, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
But check it out, because it's all filmed up in this area.
Cool.
Anyway, I guess in the early 90s, they abandoned that section. The Jawbone Cutoff was abandoned. Back to the Carson, Colorado. I'm sorry. So now that you've just got this island of narrow gauge railroad getting shorter and shorter, because they eventually abandoned the section from Benton to Laws, and then I want to say 1960 or 61 was the last run of the Carson in Colorado, and then they took up the tracks. But they put one of the locomotives there at Independence, one up at Laws at the Railroad Museum, and now they've got the one at Independence is running again. And they truck it around different parts of the country. Morning. Hi. They move it around different parts of the country, put it on the Durango and Silverton tracks and run it there. It's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I haven't seen that fire engine. They must have just
I was checking that out. It's cool.
Yeah. All right.
Here we are walking on the other side of this building. Private property. Conduits laying down here.
Don't drop it though.
No. Cool. Check out this monument over here too. Got this monument over here. I want to check it out. Not sure if you could read it. It's hard to tell. Pretty cool. Pause it, read it. People put change on top. Leave that there. bell. It's pretty rad.
Oh yeah, dude, that bell is probably worth some money.
Yeah, big time. That's cool. Old Keeler volunteer fire. Really cool. Pause it, read it. June 25th, 2016. Yeah. This old fire truck here. Let's take a look at that real quick. Pretty cool. Yeah, we're here with Paul Renner. He knows his history for sure. He's not reading off anything. It's pretty awesome. Very cool truck. One-inch fire hose in the back. Pretty cool. Fleet Star. International, yeah. That's cool. Post office. Here we are. We left Cerro Gordo about half an hour ago or so. Making our way down. Now we're making our way back up a little. Not sure where he said we were coming out. What he said?
Where are we going? Talc City?
Talk City. If we see anything cool on the way, you'll see it as well. Rocks are crazy. I know. Now we're cooking with hot grease. Yeah, look at that one.
The area we're at now is called the Viking Mine. The Viking Mine is actually back up in this draw. It's heavily fortified. You can't go in the mine shafts anymore. It's a real one-way road in, no place to park or turn around. We had 5 Jeeps up there, and it was a pain in the ass to get us all out of there. That's why we're not going to go up there. We're just talking about, Mark already had the history on it. But it's over 20 acres of active mining claimed out of Inyos. Very little be found of the history of the mine, and I think that's all we need to know. But, but it was on the internet show, much more complete pictures from the 80s, and the facility before nature and vandalism had taken the toll. It appeared to be a talc mine, like most of all the other mines out here, a lot of talc. Now, when we get over to Talc City, I want to caution y'all, talc is also associated with
Baby powder.
well, baby powder. They made baby powder.
Powder.
Asbestos. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
My balls are sticking, so I need to move on there.
So what we'll do, so is we'll find 2 big talc rocks and we'll smack your balls between them.
There you go.
But there's a lot of secured mine shafts up there. If you guys are out here again on a smaller group, by all means, drive up there, climb around, check them out. It's kind of cool, but you can't go in because they've got them really heavily welded up and fortified. Another thing that I know of, that little canyon we came through, there's back in the 1870s, there was 4 mounted cavalry soldiers on a hunting expedition out here in this valley looking for mule deer. And as they were coming through that little canyon, they encountered 4 wagon burners, Native Americans, let's just call them Indians. And amongst those Indians was the one Indian they called Three Feathers. Well, as soon as the cavalry come around and the Indians come around, bullets went to whiz in, shots were fired, arrows were slung. They had a tremendous battle for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And after they'd spent all their ammunition and cartridges, they decided to turn and run and beat feet. But notes to the cavalry guys, some of their shots struck their mark on all 3 feathers. And as 3 feathers was riding away, they noticed that he only had 1 feather left.
Was that the battle
True
called the
story,
ambush?
true story.
Was that the battle called the ambush?
True story. The what?
The ambush. It happened out here somewhere. It was the cavalry and the Indians, where the cavalry got ambushed, and it was just a bunch of people just shooting and just shooting
Yeah,
each
that
other.
could have been over the other side of the hills, up in the Owens. But that's where the Viking mine, and so from here we're gonna go down. We're gonna hit a real high speed, almost asphalt road. Take it out of 4 low. We're gonna kind of scoot along a little bit, get over to Talc City. You guys can climb around there. There's some neat stuff. There's one mine shaft. You can drive up to it. It's a pain in the ass. Troy, do not drive up to it. Don't drive up to it. That Blazer. My FJ had a little trouble getting the 3-point turnaround, but you can walk up to it. It's not that bad of a walk. But there's a plaque up there for some pilot or co-pilot or engineer on a flight plane. His ashes were spread out in that mine. You can actually go into it, take a flashlight, watch where you're walking. It's a mine. Problem we're having up around Calico is a lot of the mines up at Calico, when they vacated, they put down planks over the down shafts. Well, 100 years later, those planks are starting to rot.
Over time,
And dust and dirt has fallen, so they're covered, and we just had a double recovery. Guy and his son walking along, hand in hand. Dad stepped out on a plank and let go. He went between the plank and pulled his son right behind him. Ouch. Just like that, DRT, dead right there.
Oh, as I say, yeah.
DRT. So, finish your beers. We'll move along shortly. You guys having fun yet?
Oh yeah.
Hey, that hoist house was the best, man.
Oh yeah, that hoist house. That ain't.
That's just a cake. Yeah.
I was like, leaving at 11, fuck, it worked out.
Yeah, it was good.
Nice. Here we are, some other ruins. This was an area like a base camp. Mine is up and around the corner. I'll take a walk up there, probably walking into the wind. Sorry for that sound. Yeah, baby. This other one over here. I think this was like the cook shack. Made out of railroad ties. Not sure what year. Yeah, people shot the place up. It's idiots. Smells good in here. Smells good in here.
Just don't build them like this anymore.
Yeah. They don't. Crazy. Take a walk over here and pause it. Try to get around that corner. Yeah, that's probably one up top. This is what they gave up. I said, forget this. Yeah, we're gonna go top. Pause it again. Yeah, she's all sealed off.
I have to say if your head can fit through. You can fit through.
Ooh, that goes pretty far down. What's going on? We're back in camp. Cooking burgers, bacon cheddar. We're each having 2. Yeah. We got back at 6:30. I did. Our group. We left at 9 and we got back at 6:30. Yeah, it was a good one. It's smoky as can be though. The sun's going down over there. Can't even tell with the smoke. Back to cooking. All right, it's Sunday. It's official. Here's my Cerro Gordo patch that we bought up there to help support that place. Everyone's pretty much leaving. People I came with are gone. Say bye to a few more people. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Share it. Leave a like. Click the bell. And take care, and I appreciate it. It was a fun trip. And yeah, I didn't record last night because I started drinking that whiskey and Coke. And whew, that was it. All right, you guys. Bye.